Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 76 of the Own the Moment podcast. My name is TJ Lasig. I'm one of the co-founders here at OTM, and we are back for another edition of the Owners Club Strategy Show. With me, as always, we have the Herzig bot himself, Justin. How are we doing tonight?
What's up? How's it going?
Ready to talk some TOC here, talk some football. We've got Bach with us, whose microphone may or may not work apparently, so we're about to find out. Bach.
Can you hear me?
Hey!
We can hear.
Yes, I figured out technology. It only took me like 10 episodes.
I thought we were going to have a judge situation where we're just talking and you can't hear us, or you're talking and we can't hear. I don't know. Yeah. At least, hey, do you have pants on?
Don't worry about that.
All righty. What's going on, gentlemen? We've got another fun show for you guys here tonight. We're going to review last week in the Owners Club, talk through some of the final standings, talk through some of the top scorers and lowest scorers at each position. And then we're going to mix up the format a little bit here. We've got the two new contests officially going live this week, the low ball and the Island of Misfit cards. We've got some bye weeks starting to hit. So we want to talk a little bit of just general strategy and how we should be thinking about things across all of the different contests that you could possibly play. And then, of course, we've got our PrizePicks and Thrive giveaways at the end of the show, along with the PrizePicks parlay of the night for Thursday Night Football. Lots to cover. But first, I do want to mention the New York City Meetup. So the OTM team will be in New York for the NFT NYC conference on November 1st. We're going to be hosting a little get-together at Tap House 33 from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock, sponsored by our friends over at PrizePicks. So we're going to have a little situation where we'll be hanging out, making some PrizePicks plays. You'll be able to, if you place at least a $50 worth across all of your picks, then I always, your
PrizePicks.
Across all of your PrizePicks, you'll be able to get a free $25 drink ticket. So looking forward to that night, Justin. What do you say?
Yeah, I mean, the place is legit. It's, we're doing 6 to 9. We know that other people that are going to be in New York City for NFT NYC, there's some later parties going on afterwards. So we wanted to make this a bit more of a kind of a pregame, a happy hour. We'll have some food, food on us and then drinks on PrizePicks. And I think, it works out pretty well where because it's New York, you don't have any of those issues about, I can't play in my home state, because you can play in New York. So people who are visiting have the ability to kind of get that sign up. We still have room for those 2 TOC cards. That's cool. And then anyone else, and this is new, existing PrizePicks, anyone, just make those kind of picks and hey, you'll get the drink card. And so if you haven't been to this place, it's one of those, I've never been to one with beer, but I've been to one with wine where across like the walls are different taps. And usually I've done it with like a wine thing, but here you get a card and you just go around and try whatever beers you want. And if you want to like basically make a ton of flights where you do a 2-ounce, whatever, the cards are you just swipe it based off how many beer you get for that. And that's where with the PrizePicks, we'll just give you a $25 card and just go have some fun and drink and stuff. But it should be a fun time. We're going to have some giveaways, going to have some swag bags. Coop has some fun ideas for how we're going to give these away and such. And maybe even get a guest appearance or two. So pretty excited.
Yeah, I'm just super pumped to get to meet some of the community, right? Like you guys see us on video every week and, always with the backwards hats on and everything. But I'm just excited to get to meet the community and see everyone and get to talk to these people, get to talk to you guys in person. So I'm pumped for it. And I have been to one of the places you described, Justin, with beer, and it's fun and dangerous. So
nice. I've been into sours recently, so I'm hoping to kind of use this as just get a couple ounces of a whole bunch of things. It'll be fun.
Good stuff. So yeah, if you are a member of the Owners Club Discord, and a member of TOC, you will have the link to register. If not, it's going to be coming out later this week to folks in the OTM Discord, also in our weekly newsletter, and then we'll be probably promoting it on Twitter next week. So make sure if you're going to be around that you get on in there. Yeah, backwards hat required for entry. We'll be checking hats at the door. And for those I need my hair to grow back by then, or else I'm going to be rocking no hat, and then I won't be allowed in the own party.
It's okay, though, because a couple people who show up without one may leave with a new backwards hat. And Sergeant Stogie actually has a deluxe gift bag on the way. Well, not on the way. We got to talk to him and figure out address.
We got to give a shout out
in
to
the process.
Sergeant Stogie here, right? Commissioner, how do you feel about Sergeant Stogie right now.
Blew me away. So Sergeant Stogie, that we know of, is the first person to collect an entire set from Series 1 of the Owners Club. So he has every card, and props to him. Congratulations. We are throwing him a deluxe gift bag, deluxe swag bag that will ship to him. So you will have a backwards hat if you're joining us in New York, Sergeant Stogie.
Impressive work. Every single card. You got to love that. I respect the grind and the hustle.
The choices you have every Sunday now. Well, I guess Saturday, Sunday, depending on when you make your lineup. But yeah.
So overwhelming. I wouldn't know what
well, you see what it results in is a third place finish in the main event. So not only does Sergeant Stogie have a wealth of cards, but seems to be putting them to pretty good use. So let's get into week 5 a little bit. So we had the crazy Monday night game, and we had live scoring for the Owners Club, which was fantastic. After a couple of weeks of the scoring, being a bit wonky, a bit delayed, shout out SB Mitchell for doing whatever the heck he needed to do, but it was working pretty flawlessly all Sunday, Monday, and it was awesome to be able to sweat the Monday night game in real time. What a performance by Lamar Jackson and also the Baltimore tight end card.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I know a lot of the difficulty has been with our stat provider as well, but it seems like before week 5, they made some changes with their own infrastructure to kind of help this. And, SB Mitchell was great to kind of adapt quickly and build it in. I think literally Sunday morning, we're still making updates, but Monday night was a fun experience. Also, like, we were on the show Monday night and I literally mentioned like it was a snooze of a game because with like 5 minutes left in the first half, nothing was happening. Jonathan Taylor had like a touchdown. Ravens basically did nothing. And then second half was just completely different. And Lamar then put up one of the best games of his career. It's very impressive. And obviously Mark Andrews and Marquise Brown both had 2 touchdowns, 100+ yards. Like, it was pretty crazy.
Yeah, just a nuts game, and awesome to see it like end up being in the winning lineup, right? Like, you're watching it rise up the leaderboard, and then it goes to OT. And I wasn't actually, I mean, I guess we can almost calculate. I wasn't actually watching the leaderboard at that moment to know. Certainly the touchdown to get them to OT and then the touchdown in OT is what put him over. So really crazy.
Yeah, so for B. Fitzer, it was the touchdown to get into OT. So he basically had conversion. It, and then he, I think, had like a 2-point lead going into overtime. So there was still actually a risk where, like, if Lamar had like a -5 yard, -10 yard rush and a fumble, Joe Reds could have leaped back or any kind of late stat corrections. But if we go to the side hustle, that one went all the way to the wire. If you look on the right-hand side, like, difference between those first and second and a third and fourth is 0.06. There was a kneel down by Justin Herbert that cost one yard, which is 0.1 for QBs. Like, that's literally the difference. And then, I mean, a lot of things, obviously, plays that came into it. But, that really came down to the wire.
Yeah, pretty I want to show this first. So pretty high scoring week across the board. I mean, so what we've got here, got the highest 5 of each position, lowest 5 of each position. Look at those quarterback scores. 2 people with 50+ is, I mean, we almost never see that. And then the Tampa Bay right behind it, Buffalo right behind it. Buffalo in 4th with 42 points seems a little bit outrageous.
Yeah.
Wild. It was also an interesting week because of the Falcons tight end situation with the London game, which, you know, we've talked about how we thought the London games would have a big impact, and that was proven correct on the very first time through. But
now, granted, we thought that might be the case because of the low ball contest when it's a game between Atlanta and the New York Jets. But for one position, actually, so it's interesting because, look, if you look at the defense down here, you've got Atlanta with a 1. So that played a bit. You got Atlanta wide receivers with an 8.5. So they were all over the low. The Jets, you've got QB at 8.98. You got tight end at 0.4. So if you had those cards to the low ball, basically we're in great shape by playing those. And then over on the high scoring, it was just that Atlanta, which was the number 1 tight end card up until the, Mark Andrews blow up.
Yeah. And just, I mean, we talked about it, but just a crazy scoring week. We had our 3 highest scoring QB scores were all this week. Our highest scoring tight end score this week. Our highest scoring wide receiver score this week. Like, just a crazy week for scoring. And yeah, Justin, you touched on the London game. Like if you were watching in real time, you're watching Kyle Pitts go off, you're jumping into the marketplace, grabbing Atlanta. And I think almost everyone on the leaderboard was playing the Atlanta tight end because you were just locking in what to date had been the highest tight end score that we'd seen. Now, like you said, ended up getting passed, but there's just so much benefit you get from watching Thursday night, watching this week. We've got the second and last London game of the season, watching those in real time, so much benefit. And we'll talk in a minute about this week's London game, but it's another one that could have a lot of implications for all of our contests.
Looks like we've got B Fitzer, Brandon Fitz in the chat here. Brandon, congrats. What a awesome Monday night. And we look forward to seeing you in Miami down the line.
Hell yeah. That's going to be fun. And then what is I see this week's London game is a poop emoji. Who's playing? Do we know which game is this, London?
Yeah,
let us know in chat.
It is the Dolphins Miami and Jacksonville.
Miami and Jacksonville. Okay. That might be interesting. I don't know. I think the interesting thing there is that you probably aren't playing either of those in the low ball or the main without first seeing the game, because like they're both defenses have been pretty trash this year. You might actually see some sneaky points in there, so that's going to be an interesting one to maybe be able to capitalize on like one or two positions or something. And on the inverse, I'm sure one or two positions will also be then strong plays for the low ball. Tomorrow night's game, TJ, you ready for this?
Go Birds. Go Birds.
Yeah, right.
I may or may not head down to the tailgates tomorrow night, scope it out a bit. I'm still TBD on that. But, yeah, I think the Tampa Cards are going to be in high demand after this game, if they aren't already. It'd actually be interesting to look and see what they're sitting like on the marketplace right now, because they could we see them all over the top scores every week, and I would not. The Eagles are just not very good.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting because when you do play against Tampa, though, you have the ability for like a wide receiver or tight end card to go off. I don't know if Jalen Hurts can sustain it. I was thinking tight ends before, but Dallas Goedert is, I think, in the COVID protocol, so I don't think he's playing tomorrow night. So it's just going to be Zach Ertz. That puts a little dampener on getting that tight end card for Philly. Yeah, we'll see. I was doing some research in advance for our PrizePicks play later in the show, so we'll dive a little more into that game when we finish.
There we go. All right, we have to touch on our optimal lineup for last week. So I don't know if hopefully one of you guys has the points, and if not, you can add it up real quickly. But we had the Buffalo QB, Dallas running back, Buffalo wide receiver. So we had that stack there. And then we had, of course, the Kansas City tight end. And we had the New England defense. So let's see. At a quick glance, I can see our Buffalo QB was in the top plays. Our Buffalo wide receiver was not. Dallas running back was number 4. Kansas City tight end, nowhere to be found. And then New England defense also nowhere to be found. So probably not great. Would we have cashed?
I don't believe so. I think there were just way too much other higher scoring that week. And so tight end, was still fine. Kelsey still got a touchdown, just didn't have any large amount of yards and stuff. New England, we thought was the smash spot. And they didn't show up in the bottom there, but they were just getting it handed to them by Houston. It's crazy how 1 week changes where it was just a week or so before that they almost beat Tampa, and then next week almost lose to Houston. I think almost lost. I think
speaking of Houston,
they were down late.
We got Houston quarterback as the most owned. So for those of you that not see it, on the research tab now, you can actually look at the ownership from last week. So in each of the contests, you can see, and we're working to get this integrated into the leaderboard as well, especially as we have more contests. But
this is Houston alpha. Yeah.
16% owned. But yeah, so the numbers are there. It's obviously not super pretty right now, but
And Houston running back and Houston wide receiver, and absolutely torpedoed the low ball lineups by Davis Mills looking like an NFL quarterback. Who could have guessed?
Looks great out there.
And I was just going to say, our lineup didn't cash. I think the other thing that deck a little stacked against us when Atlanta tight end goes off like they do, and you need a huge performance to make up for it. Most of the leaderboard that you saw was Atlanta tight end, which was great. But
because if I've got those cards and I'm playing my optimal, I can guarantee you that Joker is going to become Atlanta tight end for that situation. Maybe I might have gone with the Baltimore. I was really between those two, but I thought maybe we could beat that 29, but we probably still would have gone Atlanta. This ownership thing is awesome. And as TJ said, our goal was, by our goal, I mean SB Mitchell, was just to get this out as quickly as possible. So from a user interface and from a design, it's going to keep getting better. But just to get that data out there, be able to kind of toggle with it, I think it's really good from just research and as we get these more contests and more options, the strategy really comes into play. And I think it'll be good to learn and see hey, how many people actually played Kansas City tight ends and the misfits versus the main event. And maybe I can use that information to improve my decision-making for the next week.
And here we are. We've got the 2 new contests that are rolled out successfully in beta last week. So people were able to win some cards there for finishing in the top and participating in the test contest. Everything went super smoothly. And so here we are, Low Ball and Island of Misfit cards will both be live. We expect the contest to go live sometime tomorrow prior to the night game. And you can see the payout structure here. Low Ball, exact same as the weekly side hustle with $10,000 in prizes. And then Island of Misfit cards, half of that, $5,000 in prizes and a slightly tweaked payout structure, both of them paying the top 100 positions. So, how are you guys thinking about kind of now that there's all of these different contests? Obviously, Low Ball and main event side hustle, not going to be overlap there because it requires different amounts of cards. But for Island of Misfit, it becomes a little bit interesting with some of the top tight end cards, some of the top defenses. So kind of what we wanted to do tonight is just talk through, now that we have a multitude of contests, now that we have bye weeks coming into play. So this week, right, we've got 4 bye weeks. Falcons,
first 4 bye weeks.
Falcons, Saints, Jets, 49ers, all on a bye this week. And so for those that are asked, the bye week cards will not be available to play in the contest.
But it would have been so easy just to put 5 buys and get 0 points.
If you somehow,
why do you hate fun?
And then someone asked if you play a defense that's on a bye, if it would get 15 points for getting a shutout. No, they don't play. They get
because
0.
I guess they didn't give because they get. But the thing is,
they don't play.
They didn't give up 0 points. They just didn't.
Yeah, they didn't do anything. Yeah.
Stop it.
Stop. So I'll kick it to you guys. What are we thinking here?
Yeah, it's at a high level because you even mentioned you don't think there's actually overlap with the side hustle and main, but I think I disagree because when you look at the side hustle, what ends up actually winning those? It's usually the stacks or at least the high scoring of the very good cards. So I do think there are difficult decisions already being made between the main event and the side hustle. Now I think we start looking at okay, where do these other difficult decisions come from? So I think Island of Misfit and side hustle, there's no overlap there. That's specifically why we added Island of Misfit, because those tight ends and defenses weren't being played in the side hustle. I think for me, it really just comes down to playing the marketplace and just thinking through, maybe even, I don't want to say a full week in advance, but early in the week, thinking through hey, do you have enough cards? Do you have the right cards to really focus on the right tournaments? Because I think for people who only own, let's say 15 or 20 cards, I don't think it makes sense to try to hey, enter all 4 tournaments every week. I think it probably makes sense to kind of accept and say hey, with my 20 cards, I'm only going, I may even just have a couple cards that are left over and I just throw into something, it's whatever, but focus still on building from your lineup. And I think that's where with these buys, we're going to start seeing, and hey, we're close. We're hoping that marketplace from a USD, from a fiat's coming soon. But for the one, there's substantial value in the marketplace. And that's where I'd say the focus should be is start early in the week, thinking through what your constructions are, and don't try to fit your cards so that you try to have one in every contest, but just think about which contest fits your cards for that week and go from there.
Yeah. The other thing is you should never not have a card in play unless you've maxed out the entries, right? It was 2 weeks ago we saw the Jets and the Falcons running back and Jets wide receivers, cards nobody would have ever played, take down top 10 in the side hustle. And so I definitely think that you should always be putting all your cards in play. But Justin, I like the deliberateness of the strategy. I also think that there's ways to get ahead of the Thursday and this week, the London game. So many people are in the marketplace reacting to big games from those teams, but I can almost guarantee you there's going to be scores in both games that you're going to think are in consideration for cashing for one of our contests, right? And so you can either try to figure that out on the fly, or you can try to get ahead of that and say, that the idea of like, what do I win when I hit and what do I lose when I miss? So I go buy and, one of everything. And that some of those cards are pretty expensive. Some of those Tampa cards are pretty expensive right now, but I go buy one of everything. Maybe that's not like none of those hit. And I have those cards still to hold on to and sell at a later date. But if one or two of them ends up being a really good score, either to put into play or for low ball, which we have kind of in full this week, now I've got it and I have a decision I can make. Do I want to resell it or do I want to play it in my lineup? And so I think that reaction in real time, you're racing to the marketplace is good, but I think I would be looking to try to get ahead of that. And I would be looking at how can I try to make a call earlier on, getting to what might happen and optimizing on that.
Right. And here, let's use Top Shot as an example, because I know a lot of people here have familiarity with Top Shot. When we saw these Cool Cats challenges or various challenges, what happened is people bought ahead of time in speculation that news was going to come out and those moments were going to substantially increase in value. Now, if you were at the very beginning, maybe you got in for $6, and then as people started buying, maybe that increased and it cost $9, $10. And if it actually came to fruition, what you thought was going to happen, you probably sell for 20. Now, if it doesn't happen, what happens is if you bought it at the very beginning at that 5-6, well, afterwards, it probably is still around that 5-6. The people who bought in for 9, okay, now they're risking and they probably would be able to sell for the 5 or 6. So they're taking a small loss, but you're thinking about this as the opportunity cost. And with our marketplace, we haven't seen any of that large rush in advance of these Thursday night and London games. So to Bach's point, I think you could buy Tampa cards and, Bach's idea is buy one of each. I think my strategy would be a bit more of like, okay, let me actually focus on one position. Let me focus on one position. So I think that, okay, rather than, I probably don't want to buy a tight end for Tampa this week because they have no Gronk. It's OJ Howard, Cameron Brate. Maybe you get a low ball, but no, I think wide receivers for this is it. So I'm going to buy 5 of those wide receivers. And now I've, swept the floor. And if, as Bach said, it doesn't come to fruition, it ends up being fairly relevant. Well, then, okay, I put him back on the marketplace. Maybe I end up losing 5 to 10% on a card. More like, the way that I see it, I think you could probably resell it for about the same as you bought it for. But if it happens, as we saw with the Atlanta tight end, those were going for $200-$300. I know one of our friends, he texted me Sunday and he was like, hey, what do I do here? Because I could sell these for $300 and then I could go buy another pack and still have some money left over, or I can put it in my main lineup. And I think like his decision ended up being, he was like, hey, I think this one lineup is really competitive, so I'm going to keep the Atlanta, and the other 2 he went and sold. And I think there's that strategy aspect that is not being put into play yet, where actually buying in advance of the Thursday or the London game coming up and saying, hey, if this hits their substantial upside, if it doesn't, understand there's maybe a little risk, but the risk is probably very negligible unless as a result of this or trends, we start seeing everyone else also doing this. And then you need to start reacting and saying, hey, this already increased 30%. Now my risk is substantially higher if this doesn't actually hit hard.
Yeah, just taking a quick look at the marketplace. Cheapest Tampa QB sitting at 0.03, $108.
So an example of that, if you were to buy that Tampa QB for $100, and then what was the next one is 134. So even if we ignore the aspect of, hey, if you buy that $108 one, the new floor is 135. Maybe you don't want to go that much higher, so you just buy that one. If Tampa doesn't have the best game, if they have a fine game, you're probably able to list that back for around that 0.03, maybe even 0.035 or something, and you're still the low ask, and it'll still eventually probably be purchased. And I think if it's not, like, this is things we can continue to learn in the marketplace, but I think that's the things that I would at least be trying to test out and see, hey, where can I actually get some form of edge through the marketplace and these pre-lock games?
Yeah. And to your point, right, Tampa QB is going to be valuable for the rest of the season. It's also one that's already expensive because people know that. And so this is one where you're buying if it has a spike game, maybe it goes up a little. Tampa wide receivers, right? If you buy it, has a spike game, maybe it goes up a little for this week. I think that, to me, I would probably target some of those other positions that are a little bit lower floor and where the floor can move more if they have a spike game, because they're much more likely to be in an optimal lineup. And so I think, for me this week, it's probably, Tampa T is interesting because it now has potential utility across both contests, but it's hard to imagine it being an optimal. But for me, like Philly, that's where I'm going to be looking at some of the Philly cards, the wide receiver cards. They get into a shootout. Tampa Bay's been deceived. The Philly quarterback cards, right? It's actually been one of the highest scoring cards at the quarterback position already this season. And so I think, I would be looking to get ahead somewhere there. And again, kind of projecting out what can I do ahead of the games as opposed to just reacting in real time.
Yeah. Okay. I think I'm going to take this even a step further. Can we go to Miami, TJ? Let's go Miami quarterback. I love your idea, Bachman, because the risk now, because yes, $100 to Tampa quarterback, there's a bit more risk here. Miami quarterback is $17. Tua is coming back. If not this week, he's going to be back next week. You get the London game here and the possibility of if there's actually a great game or something, you have that upside. The other thing I would start saying is maybe tight end and defense is actually where you should be focusing on the pre-lock games, because it's going to be very difficult for many teams to outscore your top scoring wide receivers, the Buffalo, the Dallas, the whoever we're throwing up there. I mean, maybe eventually Miami can when they've got the full health and stuff, but it's not going to happen often. But with tight end, because it's so flukier, and same with defense, it's so fluky. If you focus on those positions, all you need is from your tight end, you get, one touchdown in a big game or 2 touchdowns. And now that has the potential, just like the Atlanta. We're not going to see Atlanta wide receivers be the number one card probably the entire year, but we can with the tight end. And I think the same thing with the tight ends and defense. So thinking on the spot, I think that's where I'd actually be focusing for these bad teams, because if you go to tight end and defense here, TJ, the card's probably close to $15. I think the floor right now is around 13 to 15.
The quarterback was just 17. So
yeah.
Let's see. Tight end's more.
Okay.
I guess it makes sense because it's all relative. Yeah.
Yeah, but let's go defense. Yeah. And let's see what we're working with here. 19. Yeah. I mean, so I think that's where I'd probably be focusing here, because let's say Jacksonville, you get a pick 6, you end up keeping them to less than 7 points. There's a legitimate chance this becomes the top card. And what's your risk? Where if it doesn't is, now you put it back in the marketplace and maybe you lose a couple dollars or something. I think that's how I'd be thinking about these pre-locks.
I like it, especially because with the tight end and defense, you also have the opportunity to play them across any of the contests, right? The same strategy could go for the tight end. Okay, I'm picking up this Miami tight end because I think it's going to have a big game, and they totally flop and get 1. Then it's now that's a great low ball play. So it kind of can almost go both ways, and just seems like like you said, the floor is not. It's basically the same reason we say that you shouldn't have any cards listed going into one of these games. It's before those games, if you're stockpiling a couple, it's probably a good strategy. I can only imagine what the Herzig bot would be doing if he was able to play this. It'd be just scooping every of these island games.
It'd be interesting.
Yeah. So, anything else on that strategy? That was a good little tip.
No, I like it. I think we'll continue to monitor it, because we're definitely going to get start putting a little more analysis as well, kind of where we see the movement and stuff from sales. And obviously, we put out a tweet last time with the Atlanta just to see how ridiculous that price movement is. But I think this would then be another kind of interesting interesting thing for people to kind of just monitor is, hey, how much are the prices actually decreasing after the week? Because yes, there is 1/17 of utility for this season that decreases and such. And maybe over time, people are building into this Thursday or the pregame strategy. So they're buying ahead of time and that increases. But these are all things that, hey, if you're following this strategy, you're not doing it blindly, but you're taking into account those other things. And we learn and we adapt.
All right.
Yeah, the one other strategy aspect I just want to talk about. So we talked a little bit about this is the first bye week of the season, 4 teams on bye, not teams that people were likely going to be targeting a ton of in the main contests, probably some low ball options that people are losing out on. But, again, if I'm trying to be forward thinking, if I'm trying to get ahead of the market, looking at next week, you have 6 teams on bye, which is the most that we'll have all season. You also have 3 of the top, I don't know what the actual number is, call it 6 or 7 scoring quarterbacks so far this year. I think it might be a little bit lower than that. But you've got 3 of the top 6 or 7, weekly projected quarterbacks with Los Angeles, Thunderbolts, Dallas, and Buffalo all on bye. And then, again, some other really strong position groups. Like I would be thinking, a lot about, hey, what's that second tier next week? Because we normally have the tiers. I give Justin a hard time. I'm sure I'll continue to about how he just picks the same 3 teams for every position every week when we do our picks. But that second tier is the thing that generally moves. That tier that's less likely to hit, but can put up that score in that week because of the matchup, because of the game environment. And that next week is really the thing that I think is going to change. You still got KC, you still got Arizona. You've still got a couple Philly, you still got a couple of those top scoring teams, Tampa Bay next week, but you don't have that second tier. And so different teams are moving up into that second tier. And that's the other thing I would be getting ahead of strategy wise this week, seeing it now and thinking, hey, while everyone's focusing on building their lineups this week, how do I get ahead of that big bye week next week, especially at the quarterback and wide receiver position?
Makes a lot of sense. All right. So as we head into this week, we are not going to do a full position by position breakdown. But before we get into we're still going to give our optimal lineup, of course. Before we do that, any kind of high level thoughts on the slate of games this week across positions, team, kind of general strategy wise, maybe some of and part of the reason why we wanted to change the format is that, like Bach just said, it's a lot of the same picks over and over. I think everyone knows by now that you're going to want to play the Kansas City quarterback and the Buffalo quarterback and the Tampa Bay quarterback, etc. But anything that kind of sticks out to you guys this week before we just jump into the picks?
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because while the projections and what we not expect to happen, but what we believe is the most likely outcome, it doesn't really change that much. It probably wavers between a couple of those quarterbacks, but Buffalo, Kansas City seem to always be near the top, and it makes sense. They're also projected from a Vegas wise and those points, blah blah blah. But that doesn't mean that those are the ones who actually finish at the top. And I think that's where this all becomes really interesting. So even and why we have never won or I think finished higher. What was the highest we finished? 25 maybe?
Yeah,
30?
somewhere in that 20.
Yeah, we're two out of 3 or 2 and 3 cashing. We've not cashed.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that shows that hey, you can be Sergeant Stogie and have every card in the deck. But you still need Sergeant Stogie's skill to finish third because we couldn't even do that. So well done on that, Sergeant Stogie. But in general, so I think that's where the strategy elements do come into play, and there is value when we start looking at this ownership aspects of maybe there's ways to get contrarian and start trying to find some ways where when that Buffalo Kansas City doesn't become the top one, how can you find? Because I don't know if you have the ownership still up, TJ, but it'd be interesting to see. The QBs, the Baltimore and the LA Thunder Horses, what were they owned last week compared to Buffalo and Kansas City? So let's go main event. So Buffalo, Arizona, Kansas City at the very top. Baltimore is then, 5.7 and 9.5. So that's 2 over. You're looking at 30% lower there. And then Los Angeles, AFC down here is at 4.51, less than half of Buffalo. And so those are the kind of things in DFS where it's there's value to being contrarian because when that Los Angeles Thunder Horses does go off, you have fewer people that also play them. So you have less competition of the rest of your cards that you have to get perfectly right. If Buffalo does go off and that becomes like the optimal play, well, now there's twice as many people that you have to beat with your other cards. And that's where it becomes a bit more difficult. And so that's where I think this ownership is really like, yeah, it's not just a cool stats. Like it's actually useful for building roster construction. And like side hustle, you only have 2.28 played Buffalo. So like if Buffalo does go off, maybe it makes sense to kind of move that. Like, look at that. Of all of these top 10, there's virtually the smallest in Buffalo for the side hustle. I'm not sure why that is, but it's interesting.
That is interesting. And yeah, you can kind of see, right? It makes sense. It's on, for some reason, the Buffalo is more weighted towards, because right, the bottom line is that there's a finite number of each of these cards. And so unlike traditional DFS, Buffalo can never be 30% owned. It's legitimately just not possible. So everything's a little bit contrarian. There's no like mega chalk like there is in DFS. But yeah, this distribution is pretty interesting, especially when you consider, okay, if there's only 2.28% of Buffalo QBs in the side hustle, how many of those people are pairing that Buffalo QB with a Buffalo wide receiver? And then I feel like by even differentiating there, especially when it's someone like Josh Allen that can run some in, and he's got tight ends that are scoring touchdowns this year, like it becomes an even sharper move, I think, unless you have the low serial combination to play Buffalo quarterback in a side hustle with an Arizona wide receiver or Tampa Bay wide receiver, whatever you choose.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but this is one of the reasons where like, obviously we don't play, but like if you had this data and you knew this was going to be the case for this week, it strategically makes sense to not put Buffalo in the main event, but instead to put it in the side hustle. Now, obviously we didn't know that. And my guess is there's the 50 or so people watching the show and stuff. And then the however many people maybe that's got like, find this, maybe it changes a little next week, but I doubt it. I think this is going to be pretty similar next week. And we'll specifically make a note, TJ, to see what the Buffalo is next week for the main event and side hustle and see kind of if that is an edge that can be kind of continue to be leveraged.
Yeah.
I think it's
all right.
People want to play the best place, and I can understand that, but it's all about what do you have to get right when you get the Buffalo QB right versus what do you have to get right when you get the other stuff right.
Absolutely. All right. We're going to jump into the optimal lineup here quickly. We'll run through each play and just kind of talk about what we like about each one. Try to do it relatively quick. But first we've got the Buffalo quarterback. So we really just sit here and say, play Buffalo in side hustle, but then also in the optimal lineup. Just basically you need to own multiple Buffalo quarterbacks.
But by that logic, the optimal lineup technically isn't what we would play. It's what we believe is going to be the highest scoring. It makes sense that's why it's also the chalkiest. And like here, I mean, as we'll skip one real quick, but we went with the stack with the QB and the wide receivers for Buffalo. And trying to think, I know they're the second highest total playing against Tennessee, yeah, that which could definitely be a shootout style game. Tennessee defense has never been scary. We don't need to spend too much time on this. Let's just flip through and you'll see. But it's a lot of the names that we're familiar with that we know. But yeah,
Dallas running back.
Dallas going against New England. Actually, they're only 3.5-point favorites, which are pretty interesting. It is on the road at New England. The Dallas running backs have just been like they've moved into the Cleveland territory with the two-headed beast that is just putting up bad points.
Yeah, you really see the value of the two-headed monsters at Cleveland. There was I didn't notice it, but there was an error on someone pointed out in chat. But on the top place, Cleveland was the top scoring running back again, is basically what I was going to say. They've been the top scoring running back a lot of the weeks. Buffalo wide receiver, as Justin already said, making sure that we get that quarterback wide receiver stack. Tight end, just like we said, this slide comes preloaded with the Kansas City tight end in there.
But I'm seeing people saying Travis Kelce might be out.
I saw someone say Kelsey out, question mark. I don't know if that's
I think
real.
people
Is that real?
as of right now, we're not expecting him to be out, but obviously I would keep a close eye on this. If he is out, then the Kansas City tight end basically comes off the board, and the wide receivers become a great play. They are out Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They're out Kelsey. They're going to have to throw the ball to the wide receivers, and you're going to slant coverage to them, but they're playing Washington, and Washington hasn't been able to cover anybody this year. So yeah, I mean, with Kelsey healthy, it always makes it a tough choice between Kansas City wide receiver, Kansas City tight end. If Kelsey is out, and we're recording this Wednesday night, so we clearly don't know, but if Kelsey is out, the Kansas City wide receivers become a smash play this week.
And yeah, Kelsey, I'm seeing, I think his chat was not an injury
chat
report.
are saying they're not.
I think he's fine. Yeah, fake news.
I still like the thought process, Bach, for the record. And then we've got the LA
goats.
Defense, the goats. Yeah. I love Justin's unique. We need to publish your unique name. I mean, Thunder Horses is fantastic.
That is not my credit. That is I want to say one of our European listeners who was actually on Team Huddle and was going through, and they basically asked him, well, so he's the one who won the Twitter contest where he gave the two, like, hey, I don't know football, but something like the New Orleans was
the Black Popes.
the Black Popes, and then the Big Cheese was one, and he gets credit for Thunder Horses too. But yeah, so Los Angeles is playing against Giants, 10-point favorite. Giants are only projected to score 19. I think if Daniel Jones plays, then we probably are a little more scared of this because I think New York could actually put up some points there. But if Daniel Jones is still out because of the concussion, then that's going to be an ugly game, and LA is just going to destroy their front line.
Should be a fun week. Hopefully we can cash in the optimal lineup, get ourselves back to a 50% cash rate.
I'm sure Cameron Brate's gonna have 2 touchdowns, and then everyone's gonna get a free tight end square.
Your Bucks. All right, let's get to the fun stuff here. We got some giveaways. We got some PrizePicks parlays to make. Where do we want to start here, Justin?
All right, let's start with the PrizePicks parlay, and then we'll go to the PrizePicks wheel. Okay.
Remember, everyone, if you have not already, definitely go on over, check out prizepicks.com, sign up with promo code TOC. We still have our fantastic offer going where if you deposit, first off, any deposit up to $100, 100% cash back. And then if you deposit $100 or more, you will also get 2 free TOC cards, courtesy of our partners over at PrizePicks. So make sure you check them out. We'll be can't wait to. I'm itching because I'm in PA, so I'm not eligible to play, but I'm definitely gonna be firing that Monday Night Football game, loading up the account, ready to go. Gonna be a good time. Definitely check out PrizePicks if you have not already.
That's gonna be good.
What game is that?
New York Giants versus.
I'll just look it up.
Arizona, maybe? I don't know. 100% New York Giants, 5% confidence in the other.
Okay.
Chiefs?
No. Is it?
That's what producer Coop just said.
That's the Chiefs.
Ooh,
at Kansas City.
That'll be fun at least.
That will be fun.
Yeah. Thank you, producer Coop. Okay. So for PrizePicks, so obviously I start off, go to Establish the Run. I take a look at their projections versus the PrizePicks for this game. I think big thing that jumps out at me is the line for the Tampa passing is only 301. Here we have a mean of 330. We know that they've been passing a ton. They just don't have that much desire to really run the ball. So I think it makes sense to kind of go with let's go with the over for Tom Brady and then see what we can stack with. From a percentage difference, it loves OJ Howard. So line's only 10.5. I took a look at the game log for OJ Howard recently. 21, 11, 0, 19. The 0 I want to throw out because that game was just extremely wonky, and Gronk played majority of it. Here was the first game that there was no Gronk, and you see that actually.
Gronk was out. Gronk was out for New England.
He was? Okay.
Yeah, but still, that was the monsoon.
Okay, so just, but then more recently, so you see he's actually increasing his role. But established the run, absolutely loves him. Projection of 24 versus the line. So that's probably one of the highest percentage differences for something more than just like a 1 or 2 difference that we've seen. And then Evans is the next one where projected for 66, or line is 66, projection 76. You take a look at what he's done this year. Other than the first game, he's had 75, 106, 75, 113. I think that feels like a pretty strong one as well. So what I kind of am aiming towards is, hey, stack those 3, and then we need something from Philly. And this is where I need your guys' help because nothing really jumped out at me. I've got some ideas, but from a projection-wise,
any Hurts stuff that we can like? I mean, I feel like Hurts is the only player on the team that I feel somewhat confident in, but I assume that his stuff is probably juiced up.
Is it? So Ertz is at 44.5. The projection is actually a little
lower.
Bad,
I said Hurts. Like Jalen.
Oh, Jalen. Sorry. Okay, because I was thinking Ertz because there's no Dallas Goedert. So Ertz.
Ertz is probably also someone that I would consider.
But here they actually are. So I don't know. They think that it's actually going to be projections a little lower. So that didn't jump out to me. Miles Sanders rushing they think is off. But if we're saying that Tampa's going to throw a bunch, I don't think we want the Miles Sanders rushing. Here's the one that kind of jumped out at me. Gainwell. So what we've seen is that when Philly is behind, Miles Sanders kind of just rides the bench and they really start using Gainwell. So I took a look here in the games that they lost. You've got Gainwell with 8 targets, 58 yards, 4 targets, 32. And then earlier on, it was 3-3 and short at small yardage. Carolina, they won in that close game and he didn't do as much. So if we expect Tampa to have success in the air and kind of win this game, I think grabbing that Gainwell for, 24, 23 and a half could be a decent correlation play.
I like it. Gainwell's been pretty solid. I mean, team watch the tape when I'm watching my Eagles. He's one of the people that does jump off the screen a little bit. He's got some good quickness. It's like we love the Darren Sproles recyclables. We had Smallwood, now we got Gainwell. It's it's just
Boston
a role
Scott
that you need in
last year.
Philly. Boston Scott, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I also like making bets on rookies, as we start going a little more into the middle of the season for their rookie year, because you think like, hey, their role may increase, have a little more comfort. So if I throw in, I'm looking over here, I got the Howard. Let me see. I'll throw in the Gainwell. So I think these are the 4 that we're looking at. And obviously, Bachman, what are we doing?
Overs.
Over.
Ridiculous.
Over.
It's actually pretty, like when you ask me my opinion, it doesn't even cross my mind to pick an under. That's just, I know that has to be a major leak, but I'm just like only thinking about people that, I think it's like the DFS brain kicking in though. You're only thinking about people that are going to do well. Maybe now that we have low ball and TOC, the low ball brain will start to pick in and people will just be happy to fire unders because you'll get a better feel for who's just terrible.
Yeah, there's 2 things that come into play. So one is, and I've talked to Leone about this is a mean projection. Mean projection, you actually, if you're doing kind of parlay, if you're doing like props, you want to be using a median projection. And what I mean by that is, let's use Deshaun Jackson as an example. Deshaun Jackson in most games is going to have maybe 70 yards or 20 yards, because it depends on whether or not he gets that one deep ball. If he has 2 games where it's a 70 and a 20, or let's say 3 games, and he goes 70, 20, 20, that's 110 divided by 3. So we're looking at 36, 37 yards per game. So his mean is that 37. But if you're trying to figure out what the prop is, it should actually probably be more like 25, 30 or something, because more often than not, it's actually going to be a lower amount of yards. The question is whether or not he just hits that high one. So in these situations, it makes sense why these means are higher than the actual line. So that does need to be taken into account and does make us want to kind of bet those overs. But I also feel that there's a correlation play where it's easier to kind of get a game script in your head for what you think is going to happen when you're thinking about it from okay, these wide receivers, this quarterback goes off, and this person's also going to go off and so forth.
So we jamming 4 people here?
I think we jam 4.
You got to go cheer hard at that game, TJ, for the Bucks.
Yeah. Yeah. What the hell, guys? Come on. This is not. We should have went with the Eagles favorite. All right, scrap it. We're deleting all of them. We're gonna hammer Eagles overs. Come on, people. If you guys want the real takes, maybe I'll jump into the Discord tomorrow and just fire some nonsense Eagles overs. Not financial advice, of course.
There we go. So there's our play. The overs with the Brady, the double stack with Gamewell bring back. I had a fun little college football one. They had a parlay thing.
Justin, you can't put our partners out of business. What are you doing? Jesus, come on.
They had a fun parlay where it was like, hey, if you do a $5 and you hit, instead of getting 10x, you'll actually get 20x. So I was like, all right, let's do it. I don't know that much about college football. I stack my Wake Forest game. I hit all those. And then the QB ends up not playing. So it turns into a 4x4. And I lose out of the 20x and get a 5x. But we'll still take the cash. It'll fund a couple more of our parlays for the season.
Wait, so you could have bet 100? You could have put 100 to win 2K?
That was the special, because usually if you do a 5, it's bet 100 to win 1,000. But they were like, hey, for this, it's a 20x. So I was like, all right, let's do it. I don't know that much, but I know I just went with the game script aspect. I was like, okay, if Wake Forest ends up being a shootout, this happens. And
I think that's if you're doing this on a single game like we are, game script is the way to go, and agree it's easier to game script overs. If you're trying to pick 1 or 2 from each one, unders, I'm probably like 1 from each game, like the best edge, I'm probably going unders. But single game script, absolutely overs are easier and more fun. Like if you're watching that game, you're rooting for the overs.
Exactly.
And
all
we're
right,
going to be
what
watching
about,
the New York Giants, Kansas City Chiefs. Let's go. Monday night.
Can't wait.
Let's get some wheel going. So
Let's
first off, we have 33 people who won a parlay that was at least a 3 out of 3 in the past week. So those 33 qualify for potential to win the parlay of the week. Thank you.
Also, congrats on already winning something.
Yeah, wow.
Seriously, I know. We'll get to Thrive, but there was someone who won a Thrive contest, and he was like, do I get more? I was like, you already won a contest. Like, congrats. You got my jealousy. All right.
Fantastic.
Ooh, 34 entries. Okay. 34 entries on the wheel. Shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. Thank you, producer Coop. Let's spin that wheel. Good luck.
Also,
good luck.
While the wheel's spinning, hit that like button.
Yeah, hit the like button. There it is.
You can't win.
22 likes. Right. Come on, people.
Glitter Bomber. Glitter Bomber 88. Congratulations.
Congrats.
All right. Love to see it. TOC card coming your way, Glitter Bomber. If you're watching this, send me a DM. Otherwise, tomorrow I will try to remember to shoot you one.
Justin, I think we've got the person that won Thrive and asked for more.
I mean, you won. Congrats. He's like, I understand. It's okay. Okay. What do you notice about this wheel, guys?
Not a lot of names on it.
Pretty good odds.
And I did not do that well in this Thrive contest. I finished, I think, like in the 45th percentile on like the bottom half side. I don't know. But yeah, so just as a reminder for how you can get on this wheel for a card is enter the $20 50K guaranteed tournament at Thrive Fantasy. There is almost always overlay for that contest. It's basically getting a chance at like, hey, free money there. I love the aspects that it is rather than picking, over unders against the actual like sports book. You're going against other people. So I feel that like I'm not dumber than everyone else. I may not be better at this, but like, hey, it makes sense that I finished 50%. Over time, though, I'm hoping to get better, but I like it. And yeah, all you got to do is you got to beat me. So for this one, finish in the top 911 out of 1,700, because I think I was 912. And 8 people did that. And now they have a 1 in 8 chance at winning a TOC card.
Let's do it.
So we'll do that each week. Check out the Thrive Fantasy channel, and I'll post the contest, but otherwise you'll see it. It's just the $20 main one. And there are also, if you are new to Thrive or you have not joined yet, there are always new promos kind of in our channel. So use TOC, and I think right now you'll get 2 free contest tickets for this weekend. But check out the Thrive channel and you'll see what those specifics are. I think his name is Spizik. Spizik is his Discord name, and he's from Thrive Fantasy, always throwing out. And he threw out 4 tickets to the LA Cleveland game last week, Sunday morning, as just a flash giveaway. That was awesome.
Love it.
To one of our TOC members.
Yes. Yeah. And basically he was just like, hey, first person to deposit $100 gets 4 tickets to the LA Cleveland game. Go, go, go. And I think it was Jay Ward got the opportunity to go. And that stadium looked sick. I need to make it at stadium sometime.
Also, decent game to go to, huh?
Right?
That was crazy. What was the final score? I don't know.
47-42, I think.
Something like that. Yeah.
Couple scores.
All right.
Let's do it.
Okay. Spin that wheel. Good luck. Good luck. 12.5%, 1 out of 8. Not too bad of odds. We're slowing down. Frank 23. Congratulations, Frank. All right. We got Glitter Bomber. We got Frank. Each of you will be getting a TOC card. I'll try to ship that over to you tomorrow. Whew. How are we doing?
All right, guys. We're going to go ahead, call it for the day. So thanks to everyone for joining us yet again. Check out we'll check out the giveaways, right, Justin, for Owners Club coming up this week. Do you have an announcement there? I feel like, do we have an announcement or what's the deal?
There's a tease. We have a big announcement tomorrow. I can't say it yet, though.
That's it?
That's it. It's going to be a new partner announced. And it provides the community, the owners, with an opportunity for an extra giveaway each week. No purchase necessary, no anything, not DFS. Everyone is eligible. It's going to be pumped. Yes. This is one that I'm very excited about. And the first giveaway that's going to tomorrow has a special place in my heart.
I'm going to be up all night trying to solve this Herzig bot puzzle.
It has a very special place in my heart. It's not underdog, so don't think that. But the giveaway for tomorrow means a lot to me and this belt. All right, that's it. We'll tell you more tomorrow.
Oh, one last thing. Make sure to watch the giveaway show on Friday. Coop and I took over, debuted a new giveaway. Live viewers getting some alpha, chance to win another card. If you have the card that we select from the wheel, we'll be doing it 4 times. And so definitely make sure to tune in on Friday for the giveaway show. If it's on the marketplace and you buy it, you get the card. So some opportunity to win something there.
Does this mean that I am kicked off the Friday happy hour show? Are you going to become are you and Coop taking over?
I mean, we'll let the people decide, but we're giving away 4 random cards extra. So I know who I'd pick.
I know what my wife chooses. This is fantastic news for everyone in the room right now.
Oh man, I'm having something wild happen with my headphones, so I can't even hear you guys right now. But we're gonna close the show. On that note, I don't know what happened. I literally can't hear anything. You guys are just laughing. It sounds like you're having a great time. Chat's going wild about something. Thanks everyone for joining us tonight. We will catch you next week on the Monday NFT Weekly Kickoff Show. So on behalf of Justin, on behalf of Bach and producer Coop behind the scenes, I'm TJ Lasig. We'll see you guys next time.